Hello and welcome to Podsongs. I'm Jack Stafford and I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. Today I'm speaking with a journalist, activist and author who has twice been named Turkey's most read political columnist. She was infamously fired in 2012 by the Habertürk newspaper because of articles she wrote that were critical of the Turkish government and the massacres of dozens of Kurdish teenagers. She now lives in exile in Zagreb. A graduate of Ankara's University Faculty of Law, she's published 12 books, including 2 in English, the most famous of which is How to Lose a Country, The 7 Steps from Democracy to Dictatorship. Let's chat to Ece Temelkuran. Hello, Ece.
Hey, Jack. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. My husband just left for Istanbul. I don't see him very often, so I'm a bit gloomy, but otherwise I'm okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right. He's back and forth between Istanbul and Zagreb. So I won't see him for another 1.5 months, I think, and then he'll be back again and so on.
So he can still travel freely?
Yeah, he can.
Okay.
I mean, like with PCR test and everything, but yeah, still.
Oh, yeah. Another thing.
Another thing, yeah, you have to get that thing in your nose before getting on the plane every time.
That's crazy. I was just speaking to a doctor. I was great. I was just speaking to a doctor in my last podcast. I like to stitch the podcast together. And he was saying that you don't need to do the thing up the nose. They have these $1 tests that can just do it with, that are easy, but they haven't been released yet. So.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I'm so waiting for that kind of thing. That kind of terrifies me. I don't know why, that thing.
I know. I've had it twice, and it's they push it they scratch the back of my brain.
Exactly.
I think they go all the way through my brain. There's no obstruction. It's so painful. I'm crying afterwards, streaming.
Yeah, probably I'll do that as well. It doesn't get to Umut, my husband. He's okay with it, but even watching it makes me like.
No, they really go deep.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the person you have. Some people have been doing it, and I have huge nostrils. So you think I'd be okay.
Thank you for showing that.
But even then, it's at the back. It touches the back of the brain, and then the waterworks start. But anyway, I'm so pleased to be speaking to you because I'm really, with this podcast, I'm trying to speak to people who are in service to others and people who are working for peace, especially because especially I guess it's been throughout human history. I don't think we've ever had It's always been working for peace has been a key thing, no?
Yeah. A technical question, Jack. Will you be recording the video?
No.
Good.
No.
Fantastic.
No. Yeah, I didn't do my hair either. So.
Yeah, me neither. I'm just so fucked up at the moment, so yeah.
But I always ask my guests because, you're doing so many interviews now, and you must get so tired of repeating yourself. But what would you like to talk about?
Well, if you're going to do something about how to lose a country, the book that is out, now in circulation, let's say, that would be okay. But otherwise, we can speak about anything concerning global politics or the state of the world, so to speak. But would you please, you already told me in the email, but would you please make it more clear to me so I know what's going to happen? Like, are you going to do this as a podcast and then do some music over it? Or how is that going to work?
Well, as soon as we finish the interview, I stay up all night trying to write a song to encapsulate your entire theory into 3 minutes.
Lovely.
All your beliefs and ideas, with I don't know how much success. I had an interesting conversation with Iyad el-Baghdadi, who is another is an Arabic libertarian. Obviously, you know him. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a song for him based on the Arab Tyrant Manual. It was kind of so. This is my 60th interview with you, and it could be my second song about dictators. So that's kind of weird, no?
Well,
I mean,
actually, you know what? Why don't we not talk about dictators, but rather people who are the other people, like who are concerned and who actually are more powerful than they think. Maybe it's more. It would be
you
more
mean
cheerful song. It would be
you
a
mean a
more.
positive song?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I could try that. I've never done one, but
Because I'm so bored of being the Cassandra, especially after United States happened, this Capitol Hill insurrection. People have been calling me like, "How did you know this would happen?" and so on. But then it makes you this person who's feeding on other people's miseries, almost. So it is not a good feeling. I'm like, and I don't have any joy at all to say I told you so, neither to British people nor to Americans or the other ones who have been enjoying the comfort of exceptionalism. Yeah, so it won't. Let's not do something
yeah,
about dictators. And one of the things I've been saying in all the interviews and panels or whatever, we are talking too much about them, and then our perception of the entire world becomes
right,
only them, as if the other people are not living, because these guys and their supporters are too loud and too striking, too shocking, whatever, so they sort of abduct our
right,
understanding
right. They
of
suck
life.
all the oxygen out of the
I don't
air.
know if I'm clear. Exactly. And then when you are the one who is opposing to a dictator, whenever you're on the stage, your existence is almost entirely connected to him. It becomes like that. It's in the book as well, I think. Once in Den Haag, La Hague, whatever you call it in English. There was this panel with, I was on the stage with Mikhail Shishkin, who is a Russian novelist, a well known one. He's living in Switzerland because of his political, stand. And as soon as we were on the stage, there was this giant screen behind us, and they put Erdogan and Putin on the stage. And I told from the stage that, look how small we are, how small we look, and as if these guys are bigger than us, and as if our existence is nothing without them. So since then, I've been thinking about this. Whenever I write for Guardian or any other medium, they put a photo of Erdogan, and Erdogan becomes Turkey. Turkey is becoming nothing else but Erdogan, as well as Russia and United States and so on. I think this is not only embarrassing for those people who are struggling against these guys, but also it diminishes the perception of these countries to these clownish, Darth Vaderish
But even in America,
figures.
he was for years. Just there was just this one guy. So yeah, it's a good tactic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, to tell you the truth, uh, well, now United States Americans are struggling with this question: is this America, or is this our country? That's why I wrote the book "How to Lose a Country," because this is how you lose it. First, the feeling of that, this is not the country I know of, comes to you, and then you kind of surrender to that idea, or the politics developed in such a way that it really is becoming a strange country to you. But then I think everybody has to sit down, even the most mature democracies, Britain, United States included, and acknowledge the fact that the world is different now, and the new and the good and the beautiful thing concerning politics will come from the new political resistance movements, and they have to include these movements to the opposition, the mainstream opposition against dictators. Otherwise, they cannot deal with this fact. Now they have Biden, as they have Macron in France, and these are the guys. These are the last hopes, I think. These guys, for the current establishment. They are centrists and they are like proper looking men and so on. So these and all these people are expecting that these guys will hold together what is crumbling. But then we have to know that the crumbling thing is not a few institutions. The representative democracy itself is crumbling due to several reasons. But we have to acknowledge that this is the crisis of representative democracy globally, and right-wing populism is the most striking and the most striking bit of it.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, that's one thing I wanted to mention about, because when I was looking at the book, the first is to create a movement. That's the first thing that they do when they try to take over a country.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm in the south of Italy. I'm not really in a position to comment on these geopolitics, or more, most of them, I guess, from America, and so that's kind of been my focus. Obviously, it's what's most of the news. So do you think there's also, because you talk a lot about, well, it's fascism now, isn't it? But do you think this also applies to the other extreme, obviously to the extreme left? I mean, do you think that there's also a risk that the Antifa and Black Lives Matter could develop in bad ways as well?
I don't think so, because it depends on how you define populism and right-wing populism. I define populism as mobilizing and organizing a calculated ignorance. So if you are talking about left and leftist, or let's say progressive politics, there is no you should weed out the ignorance there, and you should weed out the
Definitely.
manipulation from there. So so I don't think there could be. And by the way, okay, let me put it this way: when anyone asks me this question, you're talking about right wing populism. What about left wing populism? Well, there's something that I don't like with this question, because it is as if you are trying to equalize two things, and one of them is almost non existent at this point in our world. And it is as if you are trying to, not you personally, but the one who asks the question is trying to mm, make this new form of fascism insignificant, and it makes as if the entire issue a theoretical discussion, whereas in our daily lives, in our every day, we are facing the consequences of right-wing populism. If you're in the United States and if you're not white enough or white supremacist enough, you know now that you can get killed by a white supremacist. Or in Britain, you can be harassed by diehard Brexiteer and so on. So when this right-wing populism and this new form of fascism is so vivid and so real, why are we supposed to talk about left-wing populism? So I don't see the reason there, and I always feel like, this is a question to like diminish the danger of
Oh,
right-wing
well, I mean,
populism.
Trump is a terrible human being, and Boris Johnson is not as bad, obviously, but he's not a shining example. But just to be the more the devil's advocate, because a lot of these movements, they are reactions. Communism is a reaction to fascism and things like that. But if you do the maths, the number of people killed by communism is pretty significant. I mean, it's killed by their own governments.
People were not really, well, okay, authoritarianism. Yes, you're talking about authoritarianism, and yes, it has been guilty throughout the human history. That is correct. But then when you ask such questions, then other questions start to appear. Like, is Bernie Sanders left-wing populist, or is Latin American countries who against all odds
Like
happen
Chavez,
to
yeah.
um, not Chavez necessarily. I was actually thinking about Bolivia here. They finally, against all odds, managed to elect their president, and then what? Are we going to call him left-wing populist? So there's a bit of ideological, um, mm, cynicism there. I think
I
something
think we have to
sinister
be aware
about it.
because they're all human beings in these organizations, and throughout history, they've just been. They all run to the extremes, and they have all pretty terrible, So, and they.
But then, we shouldn't think that these guys are horrible people, because when you say that, the solution becomes, let's get rid of them and everything will be back to normal. This is what actually I am trying to say. It's not about them. It's not about Trump, Boris Johnson, or this and that. It is about the systems. There's something happening in the system, and unless we acknowledge it, it's going to go even worse. Okay, imagine these guys who were storming
Yeah.
into the Capitol Hill. Um, they were like, I'm like, if you ask me, they were like sheep trying to find themselves a shepherd, and they obviously Trump was not there, so they were kind of they didn't know what to do. So I was actually that night thinking, what if they find a proper shepherd? That would be the end of American democracy, I think. Trump is a guy who doesn't know politics. He's not a politician. And he is not, as we know, very smart in that sense. But if there are so many sheep, probably they would be able to find themselves a shepherd. And that
Well, he
is
got 70
kind of
million votes,
terrifying
no?
to me. And this goes
He got more
also
votes than
for
last time.
other
He got
countries as
70
well.
million
Excuse me?
this time.
Absolutely. I mean, when you ask, is this America? Yeah, this is America in numbers. How it is like almost split in two. And Biden had more votes, obviously, but it was a very tight run. And so yeah, 70 million people in the United States voted for pussy groping and
Let's
whatever
get off.
this
You're
foreign
slipping back to
person.
talking about the dictators there. So I found you there. Let's just,
Oh yeah.
because I heard you had these 10 words that as the antidote. Maybe we could build the song around those. What do you think?
Yeah, the new book. After How to Lose a Country, writing and talking about how to lose a country for almost 2 years now, um, I wanted to, right away, actually, after writing How to Lose a Country, I started this book. It will come out in London in May, and then following months, it will be published in several other languages in Europe and in other parts of the world. It will be called Together 10 Choices for a Better Now. Um, and yeah, I chose 10 words like anger, love, attention, fear, and several other words. And I think these words are and will be more central to our lives and our politics in the coming years. And the most important to me is dignity among those words. So yeah, I talked about these words, and through these words, and through a lot of storytelling, in fact, I try to put my own ideas about what kind of people are we supposed to be to build a different world, and what kind of a life we can shape in order to make this
That's very interesting.
century
Yeah.
a better one. So yeah, together hopefully will bring some joy, because How to Lose a Country was more like, this will happen to you. We are all going to be ruined and so on. I wanted that book, How to Lose a Country, to be a call for a global solidarity. That's why I wrote it. It wasn't just to terrify Americans or the Europeans, to telling them you're going to be like Turkey and so on, but it was more like, this is happening to you already. This is how it's happening to you. So it is better you see it sooner than later, because in order to beat this global, trouble, in order to overcome this global problem, we need a global solution, and that's why we need a global solidarity among those people who are against authoritarianism. And now, I think that there was a bit of that conversation, because it is such a joy to see on social media. Early morning it's Australians and Indians, and then towards noontime it's Britain and other European countries, and in the evening it's Latin America and United States. They're talking about the book, and I see people talking to each other as well about the book, which is what I wanted, actually. So yeah, and now I think it is time to give my way out, sort of, from all this mess that we are living as a world.
Yes, because I've heard a lot. Someone said, it's not my idea, that we can all agree what we don't want. We can all, if we envisage hell or dictatorship or whatever, we can all pretty much agree on what we don't like. But when it comes to what we want, what we like, this is where the problems come in. So what you're proposing is it,
exactly,
maybe you could go into a bit more detail. Is it inclusive, or what? Or is it to win back the country, or is it to deform the institutions? Or
no, it's not about the countries. It is more about, actually, what I think is that we lost our faith in humankind. When I look at the world, this is what I see most. It is, we are constantly repeating that this is the end of the world. These are the end times, and we lost our last chance. So there's nothing that could be done politically, in terms of climate, in terms of a better human, and so on. So I kind of wanted to heal that loss of faith in humankind. I wanted to remind myself and the others, who are we and what are we capable of. It is more like, yes, we can do this, and
does it have a
here's how we
spiritual
can do
aspect to
this.
it as well?
The book is
Does it have a
pretty
spiritual
much
aspect?
like that. I'm sorry?
Is it secular, or?
I wouldn't say spiritual, but there's a bit of matters of heart as well, because most of the time when we talk about politics, we skip the emotional part of the matter. We talk about elections, we talk about numbers, we talk about we analyze the situation and so on. But then no politics can be sufficient, can mobilize people, unless it is talking to the hearts of the people as well. So there's a bit of matters of heart.
So when you say, for example, faith, are you what are you talking about with that one particular?
I'm talking about secular faith in humankind, because all this time throughout the human history, people decided to put God as a moderator in our human relations. We needed God to love each other. And I do think and believe that we can do better than that, and we can choose to love each other. But when I say it like this, it sounds like a self-help.
I'm trying to get my head around it.
So how can we build politics around love without being naive about it? How can we love human being without raising our expectations unrealistically? How can we deal with the fact that human is both evil and good? These are the matters that have been written about. Several thinkers, of course, throughout the written history have written about this. And I wanted to put my sentences as well in that big pool of, or rather small pool of people who said we have to
It's a
believe in
competitive poll.
humankind.
Yeah.
No, it's not really competitive. It's
Yeah.
a small number of people. If you ask me, I'm like surprisingly
So what is
small
your,
number of people.
would you say there is a unique spin you have in it, or is there something I can...
Well, you have to wait for the book. I cannot give it
Can
away.
can I read an advance copy for the
Can I?
song, or is that...
Absolutely. Before
okay.
not before March.
Still putting the
I
finishing
think,
touches.
but yeah.
Okay.
After that, you can.
All right. Think of me
After
first.
that, you can.
What else did I want to ask you? What else would you like to talk about? I don't really have a stream of questions. So interviewing a journalist is a tricky thing.
No. Well, this would be the central idea of the, how to lose a country. I told you already, and together I told about that a bit. And yeah, maybe people when I wrote How to Lose a Country, many people were not ready to accept the fact that what happened in Turkey is happening to them. And maybe Together is a bit early book as well, because now people are so polarized in several countries, and we consider the other every half considers the other half ultimate evil, if not completely stupid. So I will be waiting for the world to get to the idea, after being completely hostile to each other, to the idea that we have to produce some kind of togetherness in order to overcome the biggest crisis.
Why didn't you write How to
history.
Win Back a Country? Like an antidote to all the...
That would be a symmetry, and symmetries is not good for art, neither for thinkers.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, music is like that. I mean, like, if you put too much symmetry, it would be completely boring.
The symmetry in a face, beauty is, the more symmetrical, the more beautiful.
But we don't only love beautiful people, do we?
No, but this.
Yeah, they're more.
But to complete a circle,
yeah.
There's always the yin and the yang. So, I think in nature you always have that. So, it would be logical. Did you consider that, or you didn't? Yeah.
The book, you mean? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. It would be like, I don't know, riding a wave, which would be not so.
Because I've heard people all around, in South America. You traveled there as well, yeah? Oh no.
No, I didn't actually.
I've heard people saying how your book is inspiring them, and they're realizing it's just a slow burner, isn't it? It's still gaining traction all the time.
Yeah, my books hopefully are long reads, not long sellers, bestsellers.
Well, it's a timeless subject as well, isn't it?
Hopefully, hopefully not for How to Lose a Country, but Together, yes, I do hope that it's a timeless topic.
What is the situation in Turkey now? I mean, is there any?
It is not heavenly, I would say, to say the least. But despite the fact that the administration, the government, is getting more and more oppressive, there are more and more people who are more resistant, I would say. They are not doing it loudly, but I see a civil disobedience, or an inclination towards civil disobedience, more than 5 years ago, I would say. So I think there are, horrible things happening, obviously, but then there are people who are emancipating. I don't know if this is the correct word, but yeah, they are coming to terms with the fact that this is not a country they want to live in, so they need a better country. It's an important turning point.
And is the social media, are they able to access Twitter and social media and things like that? Is this okay?
Yeah, they do. Sometimes it is blocked, sometimes it is slowed down, but they still have access to social media. Although They're trying to issue a new regulation now about social media. They want to control the social media sphere as well. So we'll see if those laws will be applied or not, or if they
that was in
are
the
going
Arab
to
Tyrant
be
Manual.
issued
That's
or
one
not.
of the things to do. So to get around to, when you have time, when you find.
Yeah.
But you have millions of followers in the country. And how do you feel personally? Do you feel pressure that these people are looking to you as a voice?
No. And most of them do not like me, by the way. I would say not all of them love me. There are haters as well among those millions. And they're not only from Turkey, from other countries as well. So I would say not pressured, but social media has its own logic, and that logic is not still really established. It's a unregulated space, unregulated communication space, and it is trying to build up its own ethics. And so far, it has not been quite successful. But I think after Trump's account was blocked, I thought maybe it is time we start talking about our own regulations, like, to put our own regulations in social media, not from top to bottom, but from bottom to up.
Who would decide about that censorship? It's a very difficult thing, no?
Absolutely. For Trump, it wasn't hard. I'm like, it's good that they did it, but it might set a precedent. So, and then things might get really ugly at some point. But then if we can do it from bottom to up, like if we can determine our ethical thresholds in social media by building the widest consensus, then it might be interesting. So I think Twitter and Facebook and the other companies should think about this. How can we democratically set the regulations in the sphere, in this?
Are you saying some people follow
media?
you just to disagree with you? That's strange.
Why not? Yeah. Or just curiosity.
That's strange,
and so
isn't it? It's this weird. It amplifies everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not so big on the.
Yeah, it's a new communication tool, and it designs how we communicate, what we think, how we think, and how we perceive things. So it is rather interesting. Yeah.
But you use it as a tool, to communicate with the, to be informed as well. I mean, as a journalist, what's your main news source? I mean, because we're all worried about what's true. Is this true? Is this fake news? What news source do you go to?
I wouldn't consider myself a journalist anymore because I haven't been doing journalism since 2012.
Right, okay.
I'm more a writer now. But I still go to the established news media. Like I still trust that. Maybe I'm an old person, that's why. But meanwhile, I when something is developing, like when something is happening in Hong Kong, I would go for that one person or several people actually who seems reliable, consistent in their Twitter feed or in their Instagram feed or whatever social media feed. So. I think I am I'm paying attention more to consistency.
You discern using your judgment if this person is consistent. Because also with the Arab Spring and things like that, it was Twitter that really launched a lot of people into being transformed a lot of people's lives now to make them centers of sources.
Mhm. Yeah, it was the Arab Spring actually that people started using social media for political reasons,
10
and
years ago, isn't it? Yeah.
it was then authoritarian leaders used the same tool to manipulate
But
the
you could
supporting
tell from reading
masses.
them that they were, the inconsistent, perhaps. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, 10 years ago, the Arab
Yeah,
Spring. Mm.
yeah, yeah. Don't tell me. It feels like yesterday, and then 10 years. The other day, I was thinking of that. I'm like, oh my god, we're getting old very
Yeah.
rapidly. I'm like too fast.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or do you
Yeah.
want to wind it up?
No, thank you. It was lovely. It was nice knowing you, and I'm so excited to hear the music.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you, Jack. It was so nice knowing
It
you.
was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Beware of movements that arise, painting heaven in the skies, telling you that they alone have the solution. On the right, on the left, many roads lead to theft, and they're one of the ways to lose your country. Beware of the new rationale that boosts popular morale, and schizophrenic logic terrorizes. There's a distorted narrative where the truth will never live, and it's one of the ways to lose your country. Beware of greed and shamelessness, it's a nasty business. When people are acting up with immorality, not humble or humane, then chaos is soon to reign, and it's one of the ways to lose your country. And attacks on institutions when the judiciary is replaced with their own followers. A superfluous state will sign and seal your fate. Another of the ways to lose your country. Beware of model citizens who are anointed as the ones to follow and emulate, 'cause they are perfect, while the rest of us are left to feel second class at best. It's just one of the ways to lose your country. Beware of laughter in the streets as they mock their new elites. The only self-defense left is their humor. Some say it's just sequential and at best inconsequential, but it's one of the ways to lose your country.
Thanks for tuning in. Of all the podcasts in all the world, I'm glad you chose to listen to this one. Thanks for taking the time. If you enjoyed it, please rate it on your podcast app, share it. If you like the song, you can listen to it on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, everywhere. If you really want to support, you can buy it for $1 from podsongs.com and send it to a friend by email. Try and spread the love. I know nobody downloads anymore, but yeah, what can you do? And I'm also joined Patreon as well, so if you really want to support, you can sign up there as well. Thanks for all your messages and your words of encouragement. I do appreciate it. And thanks to my musicians, Mauricio Sanacola, Massimino Vodza, and my researcher, Dori Verbo. Alright, see you next time.